Welcome back to my channel, and another true crime video. Today's case is from 2019 and is about a Newcastle teenager named Ewan Ireland, who murdered a devoted father of two using a screwdriver he had stolen, in an unprovoked attack in a busy shopping centre. This crime sent shockwaves across Tyneside. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to my channel as I upload true crime content at least twice per week. If you prefer to listen to cases, then please check out my podcasts that are available on various services including Apple, Spotify and Amazon. The links to all of them are in the description of this video. Now on to the case. At the time this case happened in August 2019, Ewan Ireland was just 17 years old. He lived with his mother and his 19-year-old brother Declan in Westerthorpe, which is on the outskirts of Newcastle. His mother and father split up shortly after he was born, and his father died when Ewan was only 9-year-old. His father had served in the British Army and Ewan was very proud to call him Dad. Ewan was mad on football and some sources have claimed that he could have been a professional footballer, but that dream has now gone. Ewan was described by most people that knew him as a thug, and neighbors have said that their lives had been made a misery from the continuous antisocial behavior coming from the house, and the constant police call-outs. Ewan was a violent and dangerous individual and was no stranger to the police or the legal system. In fact, Ewan had a total of 31 convictions by the time he was 17 and had been in court 17 times between 2017 and 2019. Even before he was officially charged with any crime, he received a police caution in 2016 for racially aggravated public disorder offences. He appeared in youth courts in 2017 for offences involving violence, criminal damage, using a blade to threaten another person, as well as being charged for carrying knives, a wooden stake and a knuckle duster. He received a youth rehabilitation order, but when he broke it he was sent to a young offenders institution for 4 months, and was released only weeks before he committed murder. Ewan was also charged for a fray in an unprovoked attack on his own mother, when he chased her down the street with a knife and told people he was going to kill her. He was also under investigation for robbery when he robbed a child at a fun fair in the area, and had been carrying a wooden stake to use as a weapon. He denied both of these charges. A few weeks before the murder he threw ammonia in the face of a young girl, and she ended up in hospital because it had damaged her eye. This incident was captured on CCTV despite the fact he denied it, and when he appeared in court he received a 12-month conditional discharge, much to the dismay of the victim. Ewan had been offered countless forms of help and support in an attempt to rehabilitate him and break the cycle of crime, but he never stuck to any of them and seemed to have no will or intention to change. In addition, the sentences he had received appeared to be no deterrent to him either. It appears that the criminal justice system had been too lenient on him because of his age, and had continuously ignored opportunities to get him off the streets. This would ultimately result in the brutal death of an innocent member of the public. His victim was 52-year-old Peter Duncan, who worked as an in-house lawyer for an international maritime firm in the city centre. He was married to Maria Duncan and they had 2 sons together, who were aged 12 and 15 at the time of his death. On the day he was murdered, his 15-year-old son was in town visiting the cinema with friends. He knew that something had happened and saw the area cordoned off by police, but he had no idea that his father was the victim. On the 14th of August 2019 around 6:15 p.m., Ewan was seen entering Poundland in the Eldon Square shopping centre. He was captured on CCTV stealing a screwdriver by concealing it down his trousers, and then leaving the shop. Moments later he was spotted on CCTV hanging around the doorway to the shopping centre with a group of other youths, and they were making it difficult for people to walk through the door. He was clearly in an agitated state, which was pretty normal for Ewan, but he had reportedly argued with another teenager over cigarettes and he was waiting to confront him. Perhaps he had intended to kill that teenager. Just after 6 p.m. Peter received a phone call from his wife to say that she had bought new school uniform for their children, and that she would see him when he got home. But he would never arrive. He left his office at 6:20 p.m., and was making his way through the busy Eldon Square shopping centre to get a bus home. His journey was unwittingly about to take him directly into the path of the aggressive and agitated Ewan. By complete accident in his haste to get home, Peter bumped into Ewan whilst trying to walk through the door, and immediately apologized. He then held his arm out to allow Ewan to pass, but instead Ewan immediately turned on Peter and a scuffle began. Peter took hold of Ewan's arms in an attempt to defend himself from the attack, and Ewan briefly fell to the floor. A young woman tried to intervene by telling Ewan to desist, but he didn't listen to her. When he got back up, he reached into his trousers, pulled out the stolen screwdriver and fatally stabbed Peter once through the heart. Ewan was captured on CCTV walking out of the shopping centre, and he didn't appear to be in any hurry. He briefly stopped and waited for another teenager to catch him up. They both continued walking casually away from the crime scene. The next sighting was minutes later in an alleyway at the rear of the shopping centre. The screwdriver had penetrated Peter's chest and went straight through the left and right ventricles of his heart. Peter managed to walk a few feet before collapsing to the ground in front of the Greggs shop, while shoppers looked on in complete shock. There was an off-duty doctor in the shopping centre at the time who ran to help save Peter's life, and shortly after the paramedics arrived. Peter was taken to Royal Victoria Infirmary Hospital via ambulance, but there was nothing they could do to save his life, and he was pronounced dead. Peter's wife Maria went to the bus stop to pick him up, but the bus he should have been on arrived, but he did not get off. She tried calling him several times, but there was no answer. Shortly after, she received a call from the police asking her to go to the Royal Victoria Infirmary, because her husband had been assaulted. When she arrived, doctors told her that Peter had died. Police arrived and cordoned the area off, whilst other officers arrested 6 teenagers that were near the scene, who were well known to police. These were 1 14-year-olds, 2 15-year-olds and 3 17-year-olds. Police began checking CCTV in the area in an attempt to find out exactly who the attacker was, whilst scene of crime officers and forensics arrived and began searching the area for the murder weapon. They even checked drains around the shopping centre. Police continued their search, and they identified that the attacker was Ewan Ireland. Ewan was seen on CCTV disposing of the screwdriver in a wheelie bin a few streets away from the shopping centre. Luckily, police were able to retrieve it and found that it was still covered in Peter's blood. News of the incident had been broadcast on television and radio channels in the area, and Ewan was now aware that Peter was dead and that he was wanted by police. At 10:30 p.m. on the same day, Ewan was taken to the police station by his grandfather, and handed himself in, where he was immediately arrested and cautioned on suspicion of murder. Initially, Ewan denied the murder, asking police, "Murder? What murder?" He was questioned by police during several interviews, and he refused to answer any of the questions put to him. The only question he did answer was when he was asked if he had killed Peter Duncan. He replied no. Police checked Ewan's mobile phone and they found messages he had sent to his mother telling her he was wanted for murder. So he clearly knew that Peter was dead, and that his claim of innocence was getting him nowhere with police. This murder had been carried out in a busy shopping centre in daylight where there were a large number of witnesses, in addition to irrefutable CCTV evidence of him leaving the scene and dumping the murder weapon. The evidence was stacked against him. The murder weapon had also been forensically examined, and confirmed that Ewan's DNA was on the handle of the screwdriver, and the blood on it was Peter's. He was charged with murder, carrying an offensive weapon, and theft, and was taken to court for a bail hearing, but his application was refused and he was remanded in custody. All 6 of the teenagers that were initially arrested were released without charge because it was clear they had no involvement with the murder. Ewan appeared at Newcastle Crown Court via video link from prison on the 16th of September 2019, where he admitted the murder and pled guilty, and also guilty to carrying an offensive weapon and theft of the screwdriver. Because he admitted it, there was no need for a trial to take place, and he could be sentenced. Psychiatric and psychological reports were to be completed before sentencing, and these revealed that Ewan was on the autistic spectrum, and had intermittent explosive disorder, which means that he is prone to excessively violent outbursts for no apparent reason. The reports concluded that Ewan was a very dangerous offender and posed a serious level of risk to the public. As Ewan was 17 at the time of the crime, the law prevented his name from being released to the public, but when he turned 18 in October 2019, they were able to do so. People who knew of Ewan and his past behavior were not shocked when they discovered that he was the killer. All of the warning signs had been there for a substantial amount of time, and his crimes were becoming more and more serious. On the 17th of December 2019, Ewan was to be sentenced at Newcastle Crown Court. In a victim impact statement submitted to the judge by Peter's wife, she said,
"The future is now painful. Birthdays, Christmas and holidays without Peter are unbearable. Peter was the perfect husband and my best friend. He was such a loving and caring man."
Duncan's father added, "His death has created a black hole in my life. Nothing, not even light, can escape a black hole." Before sentencing, Ewan's barrister Caroline Goodwin QC told the court her client had
spoken of his absolute remorse and devastation at the act he occasioned, which was needless and senseless and took away from the family their father.
Before passing sentence, the judge said, "All too often, young men like you, who get into the habit of carrying weapons and using them to threaten others, move on to using those weapons to harm others, as you have done." Because Ewan was only 17 when he carried out the murder, this meant that he would receive a lesser sentence. For murder, he was sentenced to life, with a minimum of 15 years. For theft of the screwdriver, he was sentenced to 1 month, possession of an offensive weapon 6 months. He could be back on the streets when he is 33. After sentencing, the officer in charge of the case, Detective Chief Inspector Jane Fairlam, told the press,
"I think one of the most shocking elements of this crime is that it was in such a public place in a major shopping center in our city, and we probably all had that feeling that it could have been any one of us walking home from work. With every contact that Ewan Ireland has had with the police and criminal justice system, he gets opportunities to change his behavior, support from different agencies to change that life of crime. He's had those opportunities."
Ewan will now spend the beginning of his adult life behind bars. For the charge of robbery of a child at a funfair, and carrying an offensive weapon that was pending when he was arrested, Ewan pled not guilty and was due to stand trial in April 2020. However, due to the coronavirus restrictions, no trials were taking place and the CPS decided to accept his not guilty plea and no further action was taken. The reason they gave was that it was not in the public interest to prosecute. The Crown prosecutor told the court that although the evidence against Ewan was sound, because the complainant was a child, they were concerned what impact it would have on him by having a lengthy delay to the trial. "I have been unable to find the date on which Peter was buried." Several months after Peter's death, his wife Maria spoke to the media, during which she told him that she is still devastated over losing Peter. She still cries herself to sleep at night, and gets flashbacks when she closes her eyes. She also suffers from severe panic attacks when she is in a public place, especially supermarkets, and she is unable to go anywhere near the Eldon Square shopping centre. This case highlights the knife amnesty that police have been pushing for years in an attempt to make the streets safer and prevent attacks. But this demonstrates that a knife isn't always needed. Ewan had been carrying various objects as offensive weapons with him his whole teenage life, and on this occasion he had chosen a screwdriver. The owners of Poundland were so shocked to discover that the murder weapon had come from one of their stores, that as a result, they have now removed all knives and screwdrivers from sale in all of their stores. What do you think about this case? Please leave your comments down below, but remember to keep it respectful for Peter's family. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you like true crime stories, please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell. Please also take a look at my other videos that are all available on my channel. If you would like to check out my Instagram, Facebook or podcasts, the link to them all are in the description of this video. I hope you will join me for another video soon. Bye for now.